All right. So that's me. I'm Sade. I am a breastfeeding counselor, a doula, and a childbirth educator. And so what I do is, as a breastfeeding counselor, is just help educate new moms, expecting moms, help them troubleshoot any common issues that you may be experiencing with breastfeeding. A lot of moms, like most of the common questions that I get is like, of course, like how to boost milk supply. Everyone wants to know how to boost their milk supply. And then another common thing is mainly latching. Latching is probably one of like the biggest things. Aside for like milk supply, when it comes to breastfeeding, that kind of like discourages a lot of new moms to stop breastfeeding. So I'll get into that as well. So that's me and my little family and my son. He is 2 years old now, and I'm currently pregnant with our second child, 7 months along, so almost to the finish line. And so I've breastfed Kai probably, yeah, about like for 20 months. So a little bit under the 2 year mark. Just because like it was a very long journey. So I'll go into a little bit about that. So breastfeeding honestly like started off pretty easy for me. Like I was induced with my first birth. But I had a really great team of support. My nurses were really great. My husband was a really great supporter at the time. And so he like everybody was like really hands on deck with helping me along the breastfeeding process. I didn't really too much have any problems. I was actually an overproducer, so that was kind of a problem, like with getting mastitis and all that. I'm pretty sure you've heard of that. It can be kind of painful. So we're also going to talk about how to avoid that if you do happen to be an oversupplier, because it's not fun and it will definitely make you not want to breastfeed anymore. So yeah. So why should you even breastfeed in the first place? Aside from the fact, like breastfeeding has so many great benefits for both mom and the baby. It reduces risk of cancer, it reduces risk of obesity in your child. It's just like the best source of resource. And I don't knock formula like at all. But if you can breastfeed, I highly recommend it, 100% of course, as like to just try to stick with it and stick it out and troubleshoot and get support for any problems that you're experiencing so that you can either exclusively breastfeed, or if you want to pump and bottle feed, that's totally fine. If you want a combination feed, a lot of moms do that as well. Whatever it is, just somehow incorporate breastfeeding and breast milk into your motherhood journey. So one of like breastfeeding saves money as well because like there's chances of formula shortages, formulas always getting recalled. You can never find the specific formula that you want on a shelf sometimes, or if your baby has a sensitive stomach, certain formulas kind of like complicate that. So it's like finding the right formula for your baby also can sometimes be a challenge. But again, I do not knock it. It's at the end of the day, it's whatever is best for you and your child. But breastfeeding is awesome. Lots of bonding and attachment. It's a lot of maternal health benefits for you. It's really good for you. Like your babies get so many good antibodies and nutrients from your breast milk that, of course, breastfed babies do get sick, but they very rarely can get sick if there's no other underlying medical issues or anything like that. And so it was a saving grace. Like my son probably got sick all of like 2 times and in his whole 2 years of life. So it was amazing. I can vouch for that part of breastfeeding. Like, again, I can't guarantee that your child won't ever get sick, but it definitely does help like fight off certain illnesses and things like that. So it's really great for immunity. It's great for growth and development. There's lots of studies that show that breastfeeding babies have like higher IQ levels. Their development is like more on track than other babies. So it's just, why would you not? So first thing point that I'm gonna like bring up is probably latching. So when it comes to latching, oops, I got out of it. the first thing that you're really gonna want to look for when it comes to latching is because a lot of moms are like, do I have a good latch? Do I have a bad latch? Like, how can you tell what the latch is like? Because whether you have like a home birth or a hospital birth, the first thing you're going to have to do when it comes to breastfeeding is latch your baby on. Like, your nurses are going to tell you once they get baby cleaned up and dried off and everything like that, they're going to hand your baby to you. And if you are planning on breastfeeding, they're going to want you to latch. So what you want to look for when you're trying to get a good latch is like you want your baby's mouth to be open and wide. And sometimes a lot of moms can run into the issue if your baby's latch is shallow or if they're only like getting onto the nipple, it is painful. So breastfeeding, first of all, should not be painful. It will be uncomfortable and possibly slightly painful in the very beginning, like in the first week or two, only because, not because like you're not getting a good latch, but because your hormones are changing. And when you're breastfeeding, this is what a lot of people don't tell you, is that it causes like your body to contract. So when you start off breastfeeding for those first few days, you're gonna feel like you're having mild contractions and cramps. So it's gonna feel uncomfortable, but it shouldn't be like too painful. And then another like weird fun fact about like the first days of breastfeeding is because in the beginning it's making your muscles contract, which is also another good thing because it helps you heal faster because those vaginal muscles, those stomach muscles are starting to go back in place. So which is good. And it speeds up your healing, honestly, if you breastfeed. But anyways, so when your baby is latching, you want to like hold the breast, like the breast should be pointed. And I wish I had my doll with me to kind of like help explain better. But as you can see, like on the screen, like the mom is like holding the bottom of her breast. So whether you have big breasts, large breasts, small breasts, it doesn't really matter. You can pretty much hold it in the same position, but you want like your nipple to be facing like the roof of the baby's mouth, not like straight, not like straight through, like kind of like tilted upwards. And then that's going to help get your baby like as much areola as possible because you want a little bit of the areola to be in the baby's mouth. And then depending on the anatomy of your breast, this is going to look different for every mom. So you don't want the baby sucking on the nipple because you're not nipple feeding, you're breastfeeding. So you do want a little bit of like the outside of the breast as well in baby's mouth. And that's how you're going to get a really good latch. And so depending on the size and the shape of your breast, a really good position to do is like the football hold, which is like where you're cuddling baby to the side like this, and you're holding like the back of their like neck, between like their neck and their back. You don't want to like hold like the back of their head when you're trying to hold them and support, like how a normal person would like hold them and support them. You want to kind of like have a grip under their neck and like have your palm placed like right behind their back. That way you can try to like help guide and control where their head is going. Because too, like an issue you'll face is like if you're like trying to take their head and like stuff it, it's gonna be uncomfortable for the baby and it's probably eventually gonna be uncomfortable for you, right? And so a lot of moms worry too, like, oh, am I gonna like smother the baby? And it's like you're not gonna smother them, they're gonna choose breathing before they choose feeding. So you'll know if baby's airways are not clear if like they start to pull off or like start moving their head from side to side. Then that means you probably want to like press down a little bit on your breast to kind of give them a little bit more of a clearer airway. So again, like you're gonna want that nipple to like point towards like the roof of their mouth rather than just like straight back down their throat per se. And that's really gonna help like get a good latch and get them to pull out as much milk as possible. So in the second picture, she kind of has like a better demonstration as like how the nipples tilted upwards towards baby's lip. So like a good practice I tell new moms to start off with when they're breastfeeding is like, because sometimes you're like, oh, well, I don't think my baby wants it or they're not opening their mouth. So something you can do is like take your breast how she's doing in the second picture and like just hold it like up towards baby's lip and kind of like hand like squeeze a little bit gently on your breast, and like a little bit of milk will start to express, and then baby will smell it, and then just kind of like rub it across their top lip, and then that will tempt your baby to open up their mouth to begin feeding. Because then I'll be like, oh, okay, like I smell food, like this is where it's supposed to come from. So then that will help them open up. And then again, like latching continued. So you can't really see in this picture like where the nipple is in the baby's mouth, but baby looks comfortable. Everybody looks comfortable. The hand placement of the thumb like on the neck, so you have like a good grip, and then like your palm like in their back to kind of help guide them and move them around. And it's also easier to help you change positions to see what's comfortable for you and what's not. And it always helps to have like either one of those like boppy pillows around you, because like you're either going to be there for a while or you're not. Because sometimes like a newborns, they like to just sit on the breast for a long time. And so you're there, and then it's just kind of like you start cramping up in your back or your arm or your like hands start to kind of cramp up. So always have like a pillow around to kind of help support your back and your arms in case you get tired, because you may or may not be there for a while. And then another thing you can do if you don't have, like if you're out and about, if you don't have that on hand, is like roll up a small blanket or like roll up a towel and just put it underneath you for extra support. If you do find like breastfeeding to be painful, or if like you think your baby's like latched onto just the nipple and it's hurting you, you're gonna know right away, or your baby's probably gonna get fussy and they're gonna know right away. But so to break the latch, you'll just take your finger like it's positioned on like photo number 5, and just like stick your finger like in the side of the baby's mouth and kind of just pull to kind of break the latch, and then remove them a little bit from your breast, rather than just trying to like take your boob and pull it off or pull them off, because it's gonna hurt. So you want to break the latch first to avoid like hurting yourself and to avoid like getting cracked nipples or bleeding nipples, or to like scare the baby. And so how do you tell like if your baby is getting enough? That's another common thing that you face like breastfeeding. So the main thing is like the latch. Your latch, if you have a good latch, is more than likely your baby is getting enough milk. If that latch is not good and they're just latching onto the nipple, they're going to be less effective of pulling the milk out. So that's why I said you really want like part of your actual breast or your areola in the mouth as well while you're feeding. Plus, it's much more comfortable. And then two, like on your breast, you have like other little ducts that if the baby is like suctioning on those ducts, they're going to be able to tell, or like they'll be able to pull out more milk than they would if they were just sucking on the nipple. So it's going to signal to your body like, okay, like, yeah, I need to be producing this amount of milk or what have you. Another way to tell is by the sound. So if you hear like that gulping or like gurgling sound, then the baby is more likely like getting milk. The diapers, like if they're having enough pee diapers, if they're having enough bowel movements, typically how it goes is like that first day, like the baby's poop will be black because that's meconium, and that's like what's leaving their system from when they were from all this stuff that was in the womb. So that'll be like the first one. And then after that, day 2, you'll want 2 dirty diapers. Day 3, you want 3 dirty diapers up until like about a week or so. And then after that, it'll kind of regulate on its own. So as long as you're seeing wet diapers and dirty diapers, which you should be seeing like at least 6 to 8, 8 to 10 in a day, because they go through a lot in those first few weeks. And then the colors will kind of change. So at first it'll start off black, like for the first day or two, then it'll move to like a green color, and then breastfed babies poops are yellow. So don't, and they so don't let that, and they kind of have like this like sweet, like I don't know, I call it like a burnt popcorn smell to me. I don't know. But so they'll be yellow and they'll have seeds in them. Like they'll look seedy. So that's how you know, like, okay, like they're getting something, they're getting enough. Another thing like that I wish people told new moms more is that when you go to the hospital, babies are going to drop weight that first week of birth. So your baby could weigh like 8 pounds at birth, right? And then when you go for like that 3 or 4 day checkup or whatever, and it's like, oh, okay, well, baby was born at 8 pounds. Now baby is 7 pounds and 8 ounces. And they're like, oh, this is or that's kind of like dramatic, but I'm trying to think of the conversions of kind of 7 pounds, 11 ounces or so, whatever. And it's like, oh, like that's a problem. Maybe you need a supplement with formula. Do not let that discourage you. It's nothing that you're doing. Your baby really probably is getting enough milk. And what they don't tell you is that babies are actually supposed to drop weight first, and then they will gradually start to gain it back over like the next couple of weeks after birth. And that's because it's like, it's just like for you, like you just gave birth, right? So you were at a certain weight, and then after you had your baby, your weight is going to drop. And then maybe it'll start to kind of like creep back up to where you were before or just wherever it wants to be, right? And that is normal. Their baby was having a lot of fluids in the womb, sucking in a lot of amniotic fluid. All that fluid is leaving their body. So it's very normal for them to like lose weight. A lot of times, like doctors will try to be like, well, you need a supplement with formula because they're losing weight. You don't have to do that. And don't feel like your breast milk is not enough just because of that. You'll see like over time, like keep track of your baby's weight. You'll see over time your baby will start to gradually go back up again. Um, Hunger cues, like is your baby turning their head? Are they rooting, which is like when they take their hands or fingers and they're kind of like have it up to their mouths. Um, that'll kind of like get you, or like they do that thing. I don't know if y'all have ever seen like the memes where the babies are like bobbing their heads like little fish, like they're bobbing for apples or something. That would like tell you that they're hungry. So skin color too is another one. If your baby's skin appearance seems like really pale, then they're probably hungry. But if their like skin seems like nice and pink, or depending on like their melanin, but you'll kind of, once like after a few days, you'll be able to tell like, okay, like this is my baby's color around this time. You'll be able to see like if they looked flesh and pale, they're hungry. Another thing obviously is like behavior. Are they crying a lot? Are they moving their hands a lot? Super fussy, seeming like really unhappy? Um, they're probably hungry. So what I say is like it's best to feed on demand, in my opinion, especially in those first few days and weeks, because they're not like us. They can't like tell you like exactly, like it's 12 o'clock. I'm feeling like having lunch at 12 o'clock. Like they pretty much eat ongoing throughout the day. So it's best, instead of like, don't stress yourself over trying to like get your baby on a schedule, which can be hard if you're a working mom and you're on a schedule. But if you can, if you're pumping, have someone give your baby a bottle, or you give your baby a bottle when they start to show signs that they're hungry, rather than trying to like stress yourself and get your baby like on a specific schedule. Because also breast milk is not that filling. So they're going to be hungrier more often than what a formula fed baby would be. As for weight production, so yeah, so like I said, just monitor your baby's weight. Don't be discouraged if they're losing weight those first 2 appointments. That's totally normal. Now if they're just losing weight, and they're not, and it's like seeming abnormal, then that could be a different issue. It could be something else. That is a whole different story. So if you need a supplement in that predicament, then by all means supplement, but don't feel like it's your first choice right off the bat. And then yeah, feeding. So sometimes your baby will stay on for a really long time. Like I think my first feeding with Kai was probably like lasted like 45 minutes. And you're gonna think to yourself, like, okay, like, is this normal? Like, this is a really long time, right? That's not gonna last forever. They're not gonna want to feed for 45 minutes every single time. Like, it's gonna change as they start to grow. So, but again, like with breast milk, you never know because there's either hind milk or fore milk, and one is fattier than the other. So, depending on which one they're getting, they're either going to be hungrier sooner or they can go a little bit longer. But like I said, once they start showing those cues that they're hungry, just feed them. So a lot of people like to ask, like, what can I do to prepare for pregnancy, during pregnancy for breastfeeding? Honestly, not like do stuff, but like don't stress yourself out about it because you don't have to like, you don't have to collect colostrum. Like you don't have to pump and collect before your baby is born because I mean, you can if you want, if you're a mom and you just absolutely want to, but you don't have to because colostrum is such a small amount, which is the milk that comes in before your like more mature, thicker, regular, what would look like regular milk comes in. It's like a thick yellowishy, or some women's is kind of clear, but most women's has like a yellowy tint to it and it's really thick. That's enough to feed your baby. It comes in very small amounts, so it's hard to really get a lot out at one time because it's so thick. So trying to like pump it out, you're gonna be sitting there for a long time. So I wouldn't stress yourself about trying to like build a stash or anything like that if you were thinking of doing that during pregnancy. It's really not necessary. Plus, you have plenty of time to pump. So give yourself like as much break as you can. But definitely take like a breastfeeding class if you can. Um, something more in depth. So that way it's like you really learn the ins and outs. So that way when you do have an issue or something does come up while you're breastfeeding, you'll know what to do, or you'll at least know who to get in contact with to help you figure out what to do. And tell moms, like, do not wait till last minute to like create a plan. And this is really for working moms or moms who are going to school. Like talk to your family, like have them take a class as well, locate local resources. So that way, like everybody's on the same page and you don't have to explain yourself to people, which you don't have to do anyways, but it's just always easier when your family kind of knows what to expect with breastfeeding rather than like going over to a family member's house and they're just like, so what is this? So what do you do with this? So how did this, like nobody wants to keep explaining that. And then too, like it's more helpful when your family's involved because everybody grab a bottle, wash out some pump parts, or like hold the baby while I'm trying to like fix my pillow, or grab me a blanket and roll it up the way that I like to support me. It's always good when you have like all hands on deck, right? Have your supplies ready. So like have your pump already purchased that you're going to want to use. So that way you can kind of get familiar with it to see how it works. Also to measure your breast and your flange sizes, because a lot of moms who are pumping end up getting the wrong flange size. So their milk supply decreases because they're not using the right flange. And the flange is like the suction, is the like little, not the collection cup, but um, the flange is like the little thing that will go over your breast that pulls the milk out. If it's not sized for your breast size, you're not going to have a good experience. It's either going to hurt or it's going to do nothing for you. So play around with that. And then that way you'll know ahead of time, like, oh, I either need to size up or size down. And then take a childbirth class if you can. Those are always helpful. Locate resources again. So it's like find a lactation consultant in your area if you're the type of person who wants more hands-on support, or get in touch with a virtual lactation consultant, or just know to have somebody in your back pocket in case you do have questions later on. And so there's always me here for support. Hello, hello. So the Lactation Lounge is a membership, and the membership offers like you get weekly Q&A, so you can ask me anything. You have access to like a private group, so you'll have like a whole community of other moms with you. Everybody can like bounce questions or solutions, things that have worked out for them, things have not worked out for them. Everybody likes to like swap and share advice and stories in the group. So that's always fun. Um, you have the opportunity for one-on-one counseling sessions with me. If you do need like extra support once baby arrives, you get like tips to maintain your supply. There's lots of like instructional videos in the lounge for you, with like actual visual demonstrations of like how to do everything, how to choose the right pump, how to check for your flange size to see if it's working for you, if it's not working for you, different positions and latching and things like that, and just troubleshooting different problems. So it's like all the things in one place. So you don't have to go to Google, you don't have to go to this Facebook group or do like all these crazy things trying to figure out, okay, like my supply is dropping, what do I do? Everything is right there for you in one place. So you either pay a one-time fee of $168, or you can do like a monthly membership, which is $20 a month. So that's a nice option that new moms like, because it's really good for them to like have it, especially for like the first few months. And you can cancel it anytime if you're doing it monthly, because it's really good for them to be able to troubleshoot things in the beginning, because that's when most of your common challenges are going to come up, is in the beginning of your breastfeeding journey, until you really get the hang of it and your baby's older. And so it's like you're better at like reading, like, okay, now I know what's not going right, what is going right. Now I know what to do, how to fix it, or what I can take from my supply, what I can't take. And then I can talk a little bit about like supplements and different foods and things like that. And so, yes. And then just let's stay in touch. So I always like to connect with moms. If you ever have a question or anything like that, you can always reach me via email. You can always follow me on Instagram. I do a lot of good videos on there. I have a YouTube channel where I'll do videos and things like that, and like many workshops like this one, or childbirth ones as well. So if you're interested in a childbirth class, I teach those also. So I give like a little sneak preview on my YouTube channel of those. And then I've got like a Facebook community. So now I will give you the opportunity to ask any questions that you may have about breastfeeding. So if you have anything, you can unmute your mic if it will let you, or you can just drop it in the chat. Okay. All right. Frederica, you don't have any questions. Tiffany, she was on, but didn't have any questions. All righty. Well, if you ever think of anything later on, always feel free to shoot me an email. My inbox is always open. About anything motherhood related, anything pregnancy related, anything breastfeeding related, just let me know. And thank you so much for joining. Bye.